Alright, let's check this video out from Solace, a small YouTuber, who absolutely killed it on this video. Wuthering Waves is a better game than Genshin Impact. All the reasons why. I'm interested. The title's got me. Let's check this out. Let's get a preemptive like on the video. I must admit, I'm of the same opinion. I like Genshin Impact. Sometimes you have to preface it with saying this because people get mad that you think you've got an opinion and a preference. But I prefer Wuthering Waves. I think it improves on a lot of things that are in Genshin Impact already. And Genshin Impact definitely was the first. And Wuthering Waves wouldn't exist without it. It is an improvement on the game in general. A lot of people, I feel like I have to say that sometimes because a lot of people have this idea, hey, it's nothing like Wuthering, it's nothing like Genshin. And it's like, oh, okay. If you get down to the brass tacks, there's a lot of things that are different. But let's not pretend that Genshin didn't work so Wuthering Waves could run. But let's check this video out then, shall we? And see what he's got to say then.
Wuthering Waves is a better game than Genshin Impact.
Okay.
Yep, I said what I said. And in this video, I'm going to
It's got some people banging their keyboards.
tell you all the reasons why I think that is.
I'm here for it.
Before anybody comes for me, which I realize is going to happen anyway, I want you to know that I have played both games extensively, and I've spent over 3 times as much money in Genshin Impact than I have in Wuthering Waves. I have my Raiden Shogun at C2.
Even if you haven't spent as much time in Genshin, that's still like, you know, if you told me that, I wouldn't be shocked because let's face it, the way Wu is set up, to be fair, really, you don't really have to spend much money at all, even if you want to try and get everything, man. There's plenty of free-to-players out there who've got pretty much everything. It's only if you C6 in characters or C2 plus, really, that you really need to start spending a decent chunk of money, to be fair.
And I don't care how bad the meta is for freeze teams, Kamisato Ayaka will always have a special place in my heart. But today, I want to tell you about all the things that I can come up with where Genshin Impact just quite honestly falls short when compared with Wuthering Waves. And if your first response back to me is something about the Sensory Tower revenue reports, just go ahead and stop because...
Dude, I've had these conversations with some people, like, and I know, but I've just got to say, I just want to, like, talk about it. I know it's ridiculous, but the amount of people that I've had these conversations, sometimes quite in depth with, in like, you know, opinions for one, in your preferences and stuff, but then people using the idea that success equals better, you know? Now, there can be arguments made that more people are enjoying that thing more because obviously it's more successful, but the idea that just because a game makes more money, that somehow it qualifies the game to have more quality or just be better overall is the most ridiculous, dumbass argument you can make. So stop making those arguments, okay?
Because I don't take into account how much money a gacha game has bamboozled players into spending in what, for all of them, are very predatory pricing models. I'm not taking into account any of that as far as the quality of any individual game. But hey, first, if you're new here on my channel, what's up? I'm Solace, and I make videos about gacha games. Guides, news, just whatever I feel like making. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, please consider hitting the subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it.
You know what? This dude seems chill already. I'm going to drop him a sub, actually. Let's go.
All right, now let's get into today's video. The first thing on my list is going to be how generous the developers are for Wuthering Waves and how that impacts the new player experience. The new player experience...
I think at the end of the day, this is a simple argument. Wuthering Waves is way more generous than Genshin Impact. Out of all of the Hoyo games, it is the most tight-fisted game in regards to rewards.
Is going to be significantly better than it is for Genshin Impact for one simple reason. And that reason is Wuthering Waves gives you 3 free 5-star characters from the standard banner, as well as something like 30 free polls for the limited banner, if I remember right. Now, Genshin Impact just recently did a thing where you can also get a 5-star character of your choice from the standard banner, but it's only a single character, and it took them over 4 years to add this to the game.
I'm not going to knock it, though. I'll give them credit where credit's due. But at the same time, I guess I am kind of knocking it. It's taken a fucking long time.
They never give out free 10 pulls. The main part of having fun in any gacha game is being able to play with characters that you like. And Wuthering Waves allows you to do that from the very beginning of the game. Kuro Games has honestly been so generous with what they've given us in Wuthering Waves that it's actually had like some kind of reverse psychology effect on me where I've actually ended up spending more money in the game than...
Same here. At the end of the day, I think if a game respects your time, that's a great thing. And I am one of those people anyway. I kind of look at it as a return on investment when I play video games. I look at it as kind of like I break it down into hours. Nowadays, if you can go out on a weekend and spend less than 50 quid on a night out, you've had a really, really, really cheap night. So if I play a game for hundreds of hours and I've spent no money on it, I feel like I'm stealing almost.
And I would have otherwise. And that's a perfect segue into my next point, which is the character and weapon banners. Now, Genshin Impact
can't beat the guaranteed weapon banner either.
Change, coincidentally, not long after Wuthering Waves came out, that made their character and weapon banners a little bit better. But the crazy thing is that even with the new changes, the banners still absolutely suck when compared with the Wuthering Waves banners. In Wuthering Waves, the
weapon banner
hard
does
pity
suck in
for
Genshin.
a 5-star character is 80 pulls. And for me, usually I get a 5-star character sometime before 80 pulls, like usually in the soft pity, which I think is around...
I'm just trying to think. The only time I ever went almost full pity was Jinsey, and I did fail the 50-50. I did then get her about 20 pulls after that, so it wasn't too bad. But I can't think of another time when I've almost gone full pity with a character. With the weapons, different thing, but I don't mind that because you're guaranteed, so it really doesn't matter if you end up going 75, 80 pulls, you know? You're guaranteed. It's better if you don't, of course. But yeah, I think that's the only time I've nearly gone hard pity, if I'm honest.
69, which is a nice, even number. But the biggest thing personally for me is that the limited weapon banners are guaranteed. They are guaranteed at
so
80
clutch.
pity. So that means no 50-50, no other unwanted weapons. You are getting the weapon that you want at or before 80 pulls every single time. Yeah. And look, I know full well that gacha games in general are just a major ripoff, but these are the best and most generous banners that you're going to find in any gacha game that's out right now.
Some of them, I wouldn't say the best, but definitely some of the best and some of the most generous. There are more generous games out there, but I think the thing is when people always talk about Wuthering Waves, I mentioned this before, people, even if they're not, they're basically indirectly comparing it with the Hoyoverse, really. Wuthering Waves gets compared with Genshin, Star Rail, and ZZZ. Nobody ever really compares Wuthering Waves to other games, which I understand that. That's kind of like their main competition, I guess, if you want to look at it like that. Other people would argue when you look at the revenue, or in regards to the actual game. So I'd say probably, I think ZZZ is quite generous. And to be fair, Star Rail can be as well.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
EFDDY followed your channel.
Hey, thanks for the follow, man. Appreciate it. Much more generous than Genshin, obviously, which is the direct comparison. But I definitely wouldn't say the most generous.
Right now. And by definition, this also makes Wuthering Waves more free-to-play friendly. It's just an L for Genshin all the way around. Now, I'm going to have to...
Well, an L if you're looking at it from a consumer base. Definitely a W if you... Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
Break up this next part into several subcategories, but let's go through and see how Wuthering Waves and Genshin Impact compare in terms of content and gameplay. So first thing I want to talk about is combat. Don't get me wrong.
I got to say this. I get so many people disagree with me. Wua clears. Let me say that again. Clears Genshin combat. And that's a preference for me, personally. I'm not saying that Genshin combat is bad. I like it. But for me, Wua just clears it.
I enjoy Genshin's combat very much. Genshin's elemental reaction system is super cool, and it is really fun.
Speaking about the elemental reaction system, Neverness to Everness seems like it's going to employ a system that's quite similar. Well, it looks like it anyway, looking at it on paper. It's got definitely some nuance, and I'd say probably a little bit more complexity to it. There's some like kind of stacking going on that's not going on in Genshin, but it definitely seems somewhat similar, which I'm not against, and in a bit more of an action-orientated combat loop, I guess. I feel like I'll be down for that because I do like that system in Genshin. I'm just not a big well, it's not that I'm not a big fan of, because I am a fan of it, but I just think that the action side of things in Wuthering Waves clears in Genshin. I guess it's because that's the way the system works. It's not a bad thing. They're just different.
But that is kind of all you get. The game is easy, and once you learn the elemental reactions, that's it. Enemies and bosses and mobs are just sponges for damage numbers, and you can just mindlessly grind it away.
There's less skill expression.
In Wuthering Waves, you have dodges, counterattacks, intro and outro skills, and a stagger bar for enemies. All of those elements in Wuthering Waves make the combat feel way more dynamic in every single fight. You sometimes actually have to think, and I know that can be a scary word, but trust me, it's worth it. So while I do acknowledge that it is possible for somebody to enjoy Genshin Impact's combat more, If anyone is to try and say that Genshin Impact's combat is just objectively better, that is just false. You can't.
Well, I think at the end of the day, you can't really say either's objectively better because it's all preference and it's all subjective, isn't it, really? Now, there's certain things that you could argue are objectively better in regards to certain things within the combat system, but if you're going to look at it holistically as the entire thing, it just comes down to preference, doesn't it, at the end of the day? But I do think it's better.
And say that it is easier or that you enjoy it more, but that's about it. Okay, Now let's move on to world exploration.
Okay.
This is an area where Wuthering Waves absolutely blows Genshin Impact out of the water.
Yep.
You know the stupid and annoying stamina bar that you have in Genshin Impact that runs out after like 10 feet of sprinting?
Dude, traversal in this game is so bad, and I don't know why over all the years it hasn't been fixed. I know in the new update there's some additions that help out, but it's usually region specific, and I just don't understand why they can't just give a little bit more to all the characters instead of having some characters have some movement improvements and it's locked behind the paywall. Now, to be fair, Wuthering Waves has kind of added something like that with Shorekeeper, but it's a little bit different, really. But there is definitely a buff in regards to picking stuff up, that's for sure. So that's crept into Wuthering Waves in that regard. But yeah, because you've got such a gorgeous world that arguably sometimes feels a little bit empty, I must say, in Genshin. But you've got this gorgeous world that you want to explore, but exploring is such a chore that it just makes you not want to.
In Wuthering Waves, you can sprint to your heart's content with no stamina bar. You can also run up walls, double jump, and there's a grapple. Also, in the Wuthering Waves live stream for version 1.3, we just learned that they're adding even more quality of life and ways for world traversal when Black Shores releases. I literally feel so cringe now every single time that I'm playing Genshin and I run out of stamina while climbing a wall.
Dude, you know the thing that's wild? I haven't been back to Genshin for quite a while now. And it's not because I'm done with Genshin or anything like that. Dude, that freeze frame just looks so terrible there as well. And some people tell me the animations in this game are better. It's not that I'm done with Genshin. It's just that I just haven't played it in a while. I haven't played Star Rail in a while, actually, either. But I'm kind of a little bit worried to go back to Genshin because of this. And it's not the combat, it's not the story, it's not the no skipping, all that sort of stuff. It's the traversal. I'm really worried that the game's going to feel really, really bad when I go back to it. Just because, for me, ever since day one, it was a problem that I had. I was just like, oh, it's such a freaking, oh, it's annoying. You know, it's just such a frustration in the game, in an open world game, to add something in like this. Like stamina in open world games, it shouldn't be there full stop anyway. But with it being such a harsh system in Genshin, yeah, I'm a little bit worried to go back because I think I'm gonna I think the game's gonna feel really bad to me. But we're gonna go back though. We're gonna go back. We're not gonna let our biases stop us from going back to the game because I do like Genshin.
All at the same pace.
Doesn't sound like it, but I promise I do.
Climbs up a flight of stairs, and also in the same vein as world exploration is mining. Now, this is one of those really small things.
I've said this,
but in my opinion, all of these small things do start
compound.
to add up.
Yep.
But in Genshin Impact, when you're mining with any character that doesn't have a claymore, it feels like you are chiseling away at Mount Everest with a toothpick. But in Wuthering Waves, pretty much any character can break rocks with relative ease.
And also, now we've got the addition of the little shooter, I forgot what it's called, the hover droid shooter thing, whatever anyway, that can just one-shot materials from a massive range as well. So it's got even better, it's got even easier.
Break rocks with one hit, and most of the other characters, with the exception of rectifier users, can break them pretty quickly as well. Okay, so next up on my list is endgame content. If you've ever hit the endgame in Genshin, you probably know that.
So this is where I'm a little bit more tired, because when it comes down to the Tower of Adversity, just not a fan. Now, I'm not saying Genshin smashes it out the park with endgame content, because it doesn't. I think Star Rail and ZZZ have much better endgame content in that regard. But yeah, I'm not a massive fan of the Tower. I really love the realms, the Elusive Realm, but I definitely do think we need a little bit more. Obviously, I like the holograms as well, but yeah, I do. I think Wuthering Waves definitely lacks in this area as well. It's a lot closer. It's a lot more tight of a. Yeah. I'm just trying to think. Actually, I'm like, nah, it's tight, man. For me, there's not much in it.
That the end game just consists of basically you just keep leveling your characters, grind artifacts, do your Spiral Abyss, and then you log back in for real when there's an actual story update. Now, I know they added that new mode recently, again, coincidentally, not long after Wuthering Waves came out, but it's only one more mode and it's not that great. Now, in Wuthering Waves, you have the Tower of Adversity, the Elusive Realm, and Hologram bosses. The Tower of Adversity could admittedly use some changes, but that's basically your Spiral Abyss equivalent. The Elusive Realm is a roguelike mode.
It's
and
really
honestly,
good as well.
In my opinion, it is absolutely incredible.
It really
they
is.
add updates to it with every new iteration that just continuously.
I've been saying this. I know it takes a little bit more, but I think that mode, they should work on it as much as possible to make that mode permanent so it doesn't go away, and just keep adding to it, have it reset a lot more regularly, because that clears the tower in enjoyment for me. And I just think they should really work on the Elusive Realm. And again, for me, they should definitely work on dungeons, because it's kind of like that. And it shows that a proper dungeon system in this game for endgame content would be insane.
Keep making it better. The hologram bosses, though, I think are the best part of the game. For anyone who wants it, they essentially just provide a tough challenge, which is something that just quite literally doesn't exist in Genshin. And part of
it would be nice if there was some sort of reset to the holograms, though. You know, something changed a little bit. I know that they're like adding more in as we go, like, but I definitely like some sort of reset, something that's, I don't know, maybe some buffs and debuffs added, that just something that changes it a little bit, but allows us to go back and do them again in a different way. And I know you can challenge yourself with different team comps and give yourself you know, just like basically add your own debuffs on a way in going about it in certain ways and using certain characters or trying to solo it and stuff. But I definitely would like some sort of reset that changes it, or just some options that we can add on to it in the game that just changes it totally. I think that'd be really cool.
Part of the fun for the hologram bosses is actually just re-clearing them with different teams and different characters just to see what you can do. And considering that Wuthering Waves just came out a few months ago, I would anticipate that there's going to be even more in-game content coming in the future. Now,
I agree. I believe that as well.
But sometimes I don't want to read the story, and sometimes I just want to get back into the action. Well,
dirty
guess what
skipper.
Wuthering Waves has.
He's a dirty skipper.
Does not. If you guessed a story skip button, you would be correct. Genshin players.
Any game that's got a story and should always have a skip button anyway. Not just for skippers, because I get it. Some people just want to skip, or people re-roll. People play games again, whether it's just a story game and it's not a gacha game. People play games again. And if you're playing a game for your second or third time, or you're going through a piece of content for the second or third time, you really want to be able to skip it, don't you? So it's a definite bonus for sure.
Myself included have been asking for this for years. But in Wuthering Waves, if you're not in the mood to read, you don't have to. Simple as that. And in version 1.3 of Wuthering Waves, they are adding a new feature where when you do skip the dialogue...
Yeah, dude, I've been saying this, so you get like a little, like, it gives you a shortened, abridged version, doesn't it? People are just going to be skipping that anyway. The skippers are going to skip that anyway, so... but, you know, it's there, I guess.
It's still going to give you a summary of what it is that you skipped so that you know what you missed. Huge W from Kuro Games. Okay, so next, let's talk about the ecosystem in Wuthering Waves.
I love the ecosystem.
The artifact system.
Still needs work. It's still got tweaks to be done. But I think the ecosystem is one of the coolest systems in any of the gacha games, really. Now I'm sure somebody will come out with me some gacha game that I haven't played and be like, actually. But I think in regards to the big ones, if you will, and I'm not talking revenue, but just like, you know, these sort of games, should I say, the ones that are closer to AAA, let's say that then. Let's use that argument. I think the ecosystem is incredibly cool. You know, like that collection element to it, the Pokemon element to it, the fact that you've got passive and active ones, the use in combat and such, like in regards to like bringing them into the combat in that essence, it's so cool. And then the fact that obviously they're gear as well. I think it's a really cool system. Definitely needs work though still, but you know, nothing's perfect, and I think we'll get there.
System in Genshin Impact. There's really not a whole lot to say with this comparison. Literally just everything about the ecosystem in Wuthering Waves is better than the artifact system in Genshin Impact. In Genshin, it is an endless grind, and at the end of that endless grind, you probably still won't have an artifact with the correct main stat that you want. Now, they did just add a new mechanic where you...
To be fair, though, it can be endless with echoes. You'll never get the perfect set. You'll get close to it. Or anybody who's been wanting to get healing bonus knows that when it comes to that stupid turtle. But yeah, definitely, I think it's definite improvement on the Genshin system for sure.
Can get an artifact with the main stat that you want, but it takes months to do it for just one artifact, and then your substats are probably still going to roll like shit. Wuthering Waves, on the other hand, incorporates open world exploration into its ecosystem, and there are game mechanics to where you can pretty regularly get these items called malleable echoes, which allow you to choose an echo with the main stat of your choice.
Yep.
And the fact that you can use your echoes in combat adds an entire extra layer of complexity. Like I said, there's really not a whole lot to compare here when talking about which system is better.
It is, it's just better.
And now, let's just talk about the devs. One thing that really stands out about Wuthering Waves is how quickly Kuro Games responds to feedback. And they're kind of doing that out of necessity if you think about it, right? Because
I was saying this before, and some people disagreeing with me. It's definitely... Now, I'm not saying they wouldn't be more open than Hoyo if they were in Hoyo's position. We just don't know. That's just a hypothetical. But I definitely do think they are the way they are because the position they're in the market. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, they did it with PGR. But let's not pretend that PGR isn't in kind of a similar situation. They're the underdogs, you know? And that's not a bad thing, especially not if you're a consumer of theirs, because you're getting a really good service, because they are desperately trying to please. But I definitely do think the market relates to how they treat the customers. Obviously, that's good for us. But, you know, they could be in Genshin's position, and maybe they wouldn't be as open, as transparent, and as reactive as they are. I think that's probably a safe bet to say they probably wouldn't. Now, to say they wouldn't be as bad as Genshin, I think that'd be, you know, I think they definitely probably would be better than Genshin. But I do think it's because of the position they're in as well, though.
They know, and every other game developer knows, that they will not be able to get away with what Genshin Impact has done over the last 4 years. Genshin is a special case, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But moving forward, the open world gacha space is expanding, and in order to compete for your game time and your money, the devs have to do better than the Genshin devs.
It's true. Yep.
Which, admittedly, is...
They don't have that luxury, do they, to rest on the laurels like the Genshin devs, who just don't seem to give a fuck sometimes. And hopefully we'll see that with games like Azure Premilia, Nevernis to Evernis, Project Mugen, Arknights Enfield, you know, all these sort of games that are coming out, these like big open world games that are kind of on the verge of releasing soon in the next, 12 to 18 months potentially, maybe a little bit longer for some. You know, I think that hopefully they all look at what Kuro are doing and be like, let's be like that. Obviously, they look at the revenue again and they're probably like, let's be like that. But hopefully, in regards to how they react to the consumer base, they definitely do follow suit of what Kuro are doing.
It's not hard to do at all. All right, so if you enjoyed this video or found it interesting, please like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on my future gacha content. Thanks.
Yeah, man, definitely worth a sub there, guys. You should definitely check out Solace, small YouTube channel here. Banger video, and I think I agree on pretty much everything there, if I'm honest. Everybody knows who watches me. I prefer Wuthering Waves. It's probably my favourite gacha game in the space. But I do like Genshin. I do like Star Rail. I do like Zenless Zone Zero. I do like other gacha games. I like PGR. I like Solo Leveling Arise. And there's others as well. But it is my premium. Oh my God. I hiccuped at the same time then. It is my premium gacha game. And I think, for me personally, he's the best one. And I think I agree with all of the stuff he said about Wuthering Waves in regards to it being better than Genshin anyway. Let me know what you guys think as well. But yeah, go check out Solace, guys. Go check him out.